Like, I'm so grateful I did not win that show. It could not have turned out better for me. Everything happens for a reason.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
How are you feeling with this thing about to come out?
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm excited to have it all out in the world, but I'm a little scared and a little nervous at the same time.
What? Why?
I don't know. I'm very number driven. So, like, if it doesn't do how well I want it to do, it will like send me into like a spiral. Like, I feel like everyone who does social media, the numbers get to us deeply. So we're like, oh no, what if it doesn't do as well as all the hard work that I've put into it over the last 3 years? And you get really in your head overthinking it.
There's this feeling that because you came up, I mean, we're gonna get into this in a second, but because you kind of come up and and the big sort of career explosion that you have happens on TikTok, which is a numbers oriented game, and then
Yeah.
Spotify, which is a numbers oriented game.
Yeah.
You maybe more than other artists are looking for that sort of feedback.
Yeah. I feel like you try not to pay attention to it because you're like, that's not what matters. But like, it also is slightly at the same time. Like, you do need to sell albums and you do need to like sell tickets to shows in order to be a successful artist. So it definitely gets in your head just a little bit.
You're very pragmatic. You're very realistic about the business. Where does that come from?
Ooh, that's a great question. Both of my parents were just very like taught me to be very business oriented my entire life. They were very realistic about, hey, if you want to go into this industry, like here's what it's like. Like, watch this documentary, watch this. Like, you can't go into a business where like you could potentially be making a lot of money and like not be on top of your finances and not realize that like you're hiring people and being like a businesswoman. And I was always just raised like that.
Interesting.
But I'm a very like natural outgoing leader as a person. So I think it just comes naturally to me being an extrovert as well and wanting to be like organized and on top of everything in type A.
What documentary did they want you to watch?
Honestly, I feel like I've watched every artist documentary. So like all the documentaries you watch where like a huge famous artist got all their money stolen from them by their manager and like the awful Hollywood things. Like, I've been prepared being like, I'm going to check my bank statements weekly to make sure this never happens to me. I've watched every traumatizing video that every artist has spoken about in the industry to make sure it does not happen to me.
I'm so glad to hear that. I talk to so many artists who like have that realization like 10, 15, 20 years into their career. And for you to be having it just as
Yeah.
you're starting out is a really, I mean, it's a
Yeah.
great thing. I thought we could start a little bit at the beginning. Just take a listen to this.
So when I'm all choked up, but I can't find the words. Every time we say goodbye, baby, it hurts. When the sun goes down.
Can you tell me what we're listening to?
Oh God, I'm like, that's a video of me when I was 15 singing in the car with my dad just to a karaoke track that I posted on Facebook.
What song is it?
It's Always Remember Us This Way by Lady Gaga from the soundtrack of why can't I think of the name? Her with Bradley Cooper.
Oh
A
yeah.
Star Is Born. Yeah.
A Star is Born. That
Yeah.
one. Right. Your voice sounds different there than it does now.
I sound so different. Every year that passes, I sound like a different person. And it's really crazy because there's even some songs on the album that I didn't re-record. And it was recorded 2 years ago. And I'm shocked at how different my voice is now.
Tell me how making that video, again, which is just you in your parents' truck singing a song into a
Yeah.
camera. Tell me how that video changed your life.
Oh my God. I feel like that was the starting point of me really starting to do music as a living. That sounds really weird to say when I was 15 years old, but I had regular jobs then as well. So after that video, it kind of initiated into me going on American Idol and posting more on social media. I had a bit of a following. Like, I could do live streams and make money from it instead of having to like be a server at a restaurant. And it definitely opened up my opportunities and people that were reaching out to me. I had more contacts. I was still 15, so I couldn't just fly out to LA by myself and like go write songs and become an artist. But it definitely was the gateway to me meeting new people and having other opportunities.
But like, when did you like? So you uploaded it, I guess, and then like, when did you know it was starting to take off? And that must be such a scary feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't want the video posted, and I had probably like 2,000 followers on Facebook, and my parents kind of forced me into posting it because I didn't mean to record the video. It was like totally, I just do that in the car all the time. And my dad started filming me. So I didn't want it posted. I didn't look at the views. I didn't even say anything about it. And my mom came in my room the following day at like 1 p.m. being like, this has 10 million views. And I didn't even know what to do with myself.
Well, yeah, what do you do when you find that out?
Yeah, I mean, at the time I was like 15, so I had the regular 15-year-old reaction, which is, oh my goodness, this video is going viral. Like, am I going to be famous overnight? Like the typical teenager vibe of it. But I was just really, really excited. I feel like, especially even at that age, I knew I wanted to be a singer, and it was really cool to finally just like see something that I had done get recognition kind of thing.
And then help me with this story because I think I know it. You get a call from the producers of American Idol.
Yeah, just like literally one of the people from American Idol called and was like, "Hey, we saw your video. Would you ever be interested in going on the show?" And
But
we
they
were like,
called your
"Sure."
parents. They call. How did they called you?
Yeah, they honestly just emailed and they just set up a call with us, and we were like, "Sure, we'll go on the show, whatever."
Did it matter that you were Canadian?
So at the start, I had a lot of questions about that, but they just kept saying like, as long as you're eligible to get a specific kind of visa, you can do it. So I will say that there are some people that can, you kind of have to have like a certain amount of like coverage. And I had social media. I had like a few things to my name that were like, cool, like she can come on the show. But there are some people that just kind of like out of nowhere want to go on the show and they can't because they can't get this visa. But it is pretty easy to get. So I just
Right.
got the visa. Yeah.
So then you go down and then you do the audition for Katy Perry, for Lionel Richie,
Yeah.
and for Luke Bryan. How real how I have some cynicism around reality TV that I wish I didn't have. How real is that? Like, are you really walking out on that stage and
Yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it is reality TV. Like I hate to say it,
yeah.
but you haven't met the judges beforehand. You really are walking out to just like sing for them,
Wow.
which is really nerve-wracking.
It has
But
to be,
like
right?
the celebrations after and all that kind of stuff, you obviously have to film that sometimes more than once and be like, cool, you did it the first time, like let's do it one more time just in case, like get the celebration. But I will say the singing is live, what the judges say is live, meeting the judges is live. It's very real.
How does that moment feel when you're actually standing in? Because most people don't get to experience that, like standing in front of the three of them.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't nervous until I walked out there and then I saw Katy Perry and Luke Bryan and I was like, oh God, I love them so much. And I like totally fangirled inside. The whole audition was actually a blur to me. I remembered them not being nice to me, not like not nice to me, but I was like, no, they didn't say like that nice of things. Like I think they just put me through. And then months later when I watched it on TV, I was like, they said that to me? What? Like I just blacked out, I think.
So I think the way the people who are listening to this who don't know your story might think the story goes is that you win American Idol or you get
Yeah.
second in American Idol and then your career kind of explodes. But you make it to Hollywood, but you don't. You get you're cut from the show in the top 20. And Lauren, this reminded me of a conversation I had with the Canadian artist Charlotte Cardin. I don't know if you know
Oh,
Charlotte.
I love her.
She was on La Voix, like the Quebecois,
Yeah.
The Voice. And she said to me, we had a conversation. And of course, she has her own career now. She makes incredible art. And I said, are you happy you didn't win La Voix? And she said, yeah. She said, I wasn't, but I am now. I would have been tied to a record label or someone would have been made a bunch of decisions for me. Like
Yeah.
not winning was the best thing that ever happened to me. Can you relate to that?
Yeah. I mean, this is going to sound so crazy, but like I never went on the show to win anyway. I knew that if I won, I was going to be put in a contract that I didn't want to be in. So my whole goal of going on the show, honestly, was kind of exactly how it turned out, which I didn't even mean for it to turn out that way. But I knew I didn't want to win. When you start being on the show, you start feeling like, ooh, I kind of do want to win. Like now that I'm doing it, I don't want to like not try to win.
Yeah,
Like,
I know.
are you
I know
kidding
what you
me?
mean. It's
Like
well,
I'm
you
too
know,
competitive to like be like, oh, I just came on this to like help build connections and like build an audience. But I really honestly, when I got kicked off, I just knew in that moment, like everything happens for a reason. Like you weren't meant to win. Like you gained a following. You got to meet all these cool, amazing people on the show and like contacts and songwriters. Like I'm so grateful I did not win that show. It could not have turned out better for me. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, people don't say that when they don't win on The Price is Right. I tell you that much.
Yeah.
when they don't win on The Price is Right, they're really upset they didn't get that washer dryer.
Yeah.
But if you
100%.
don't win on American Idol, I think you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So you go home and write this. Take a listen to this.
So I want all the tears back that I cried, all the hours spent giving advice on how to write your songs. All you did was prove me wrong when you said you loved me. Well, you must have had your fingers crossed.
It's Lauren Spencer Smith with Fingers Crossed. You can find it on our debut album, Mirror. That's out now. My name's Tom Power. You're listening to Q. Lauren, I love that song, and I loved it from the moment I heard it.
Thank you.
It's such a beautiful melody. It's sort of old school in its way. The chord progression is kind of 50s in some ways, too.
Yeah. Thank you. That's so nice.
It's really gorgeous. I didn't know if you were going to have an answer to this question, but after talking to you for a little while now, I'm realizing how sort of interested you are in the why of this thing, like, and the how and sort of the business side of this. You get cut from American Idol, you write that song, you self-release it, it blows up on TikTok. It goes to #1 in Norway and Ireland. And because of the success it found online, I don't know if you have an answer to this. I'm going to ask it anyway. Why do you think that song blew up so big on TikTok?
Yeah. I mean, I think lots of different reasons. I think the main one is when I started teasing that song, TikTok was in like a peak of loving when artists would tease original music. Like I think all social media kind of goes through phases and trends become popular, then they die out, and then a new trend becomes popular. And right now I feel like we're in a trend of people are over it and they don't want artists to, there's so many people teasing music. And I think Fingers Crossed was put out in such a perfect time where it was like COVID was still happening. People were kind of just coming out of it. It was like around the holidays. Everyone on the internet seemed to be going through like a breakup or something tragic around that time in the world, that breakup songs were just like the perfect thing to be teasing on the internet at that time. I do think that Fingers Crossed is catchy, of course, and I think the melodies are cool, and like I like the lyrics, like I wrote the song, so I obviously love it. But I do think that it was just a perfect timing in the world of like what was going on social media, what was going on with my demographic of people, COVID, like just a mix of honestly so many different things, as well as then people just love a good breakup song that has honest lyrics in it. But I do think if I tease Fingers Crossed right now, I don't think it would do what it did back then. I think it was a perfect timing moment.
I feel like I have to do some level of CBC translation right now. So what Lauren's talking about is like there was on TikTok they would, I know you're laughing at me, but I'm gonna and watch a 36-year-old banjo player explain what you just said there, by the way. This is a new game show we called 36-Year-Old Banjo Player Explains TikTok. There was a time on TikTok where artists would like show a verse or even just a couple of words of a song to let people know that a song was going to come. Famously, you did this. Famously, BB Rexa did it with that I'm feeling all right, baby. See, I'm pretty good. That was a tease, and then people were waiting for the whole song. Now, whether the whole song did as well as the tease, we don't know. But okay, so that's what you're referring to. Had you put that up now, a little tease right now, just because of the way trends work on the internet, who knows whether that song would have blown up in the way it did. It was very of the moment.
Yeah, honestly, like, I hate to say this because it sounds like conceited, but there was a very core group of us that really did it in the beginning. And like, honestly, a lot of people will say like Lil Nas X started it. And then when TikTok came around, like he was the person who started it. But there was a very core group of like the Clinton Kanes and like Jesse Murph and like all these new artists who weren't even big established artists yet doing it. And there was probably about like 20 of us that like were constantly doing it and constantly posting. And because nobody else was doing it, like those core group of people, their songs would really shine through. And I find a lot of us, even me, are like struggling now because everyone's doing it, that you're trying to have like the perfect song that squeezes through everybody. But it was really just perfect timing of like being one of the first people to really hop on the whole teasing original music thing.
Was Tate McRae part of that?
Kate McRae was for sure part of that. Yeah.
And another Canadian. Have you guys met and talked about being Canadians?
Yes, yes. I love Tate. She's such a sweetheart. I've been like a fan of her forever. I love her music. I love her album. She just announced a tour. I will be attending. It's going to be great.
So with all this stuff, you have all this incredible success before you put out a full length project. I mean, in some ways, that's an old model. You put out an album and you promote it afterwards.
Mhm.
In some ways, you are symbolic of like the new model of how music works right now, which is that you release songs and you release, and then eventually you put out an album after that. You get nominated for Artist of the Year at the Junos this year. I saw your performance at the Junos in Toronto. It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Do you feel any pressure with a full-length album coming out after all this success?
100%. I'm like a song we put out that part and that part started doing well on TikTok. And before that, I hadn't had a song stream as well as Fingers Crossed and Flowers in like literally a year. And I was thinking to myself, okay, we're putting up this album and like we have no hype going on whatsoever. Like we set the bar way too high, guys. Like that was my peak. Like I'm gonna fail at life. And I was definitely feeling super pressured. And then that part did really well, kind of closer to when we were putting out the album. And it gave me a little bit of spark again to be like, okay, I think we just need to continue this and keep going. Because I think honestly, whether you're putting an album out or not, having like a big level of success on absolutely anything sets the bar really high for you. And then no matter what, you're stressed that you're never going to ever beat that song or that moment or that thing. And you definitely get in your head about it.
I hope you could take this question in the spirit that I mean it, which is a generous one and an excited one for you. How do you balance the desire to have big numbers and the thing inside you to make art?
Yeah, that's a great question. I never feel like I never feel like I have to choose one or the other. I always think an amazing song, at least in my opinion, comes from someone being true to who they are, but also being able to incorporate in their art like what's going on in the world and what people want to hear. I think if you go too far left or too far right with either one, it's like too personal to you that other people don't relate to it, or it's like too on the nose, so it's not general enough for people to also relate to it. So I've always had that mentality when I was songwriting anyway, like how can I make this a therapeutic song for me that says everything I need to say, but word it in a way that's going to be relatable to other people. And I think a lot of the times in sessions, like we'll say something and we'll twist it slightly just to be slightly more relatable. Like this is a terrible example, but like if I wanted to be specific about something like the color he was wearing, like maybe instead of saying the most weird color, I would say a more cliche color so people relate to it, kind of thing like that. So I've never felt like the two ever competed against each other. And I've always felt like I've been really true to myself in my art. But I think a part of songwriting for me is also strategic. I'm like, cool, what do people want to hear? Like, what can I take out of myself that other people would actually want to listen to as well? And there's lots of songs we write that never make the album that were personal to me as well, that probably will never see the light of day. But yeah.
I understand what you're saying there, and I really appreciate your explanation. It's that there's this, I'm just going to say it back so I understand it. Yeah. There's a line in which the concern would be that the songwriting is almost too self-indulgent. Like it's just it's so self. And then there's a line where it's the other side of the coin is that the art is so of the moment and like to the point where it's sort of opportunistic and it seems fake to the people who are like, we've all heard songs, we've gone like, you're just trying to capitalize on a trend right now.
Yeah.
That's not a real,
yeah, 100%.
Your craft in addition to your art is how to ride that line of making something that feels honest to you and something that people want to hear, and those are not mutually exclusive to you. I really appreciate that explanation.
I also think there's like a lot of people that, and this is like totally fine that people feel this way. Like there's a lot of people that do music and they always just say to me or say to others, like, I do music because I want to write music. And I always tell people like, I feel like I have this greater purpose to share the things that I'm writing about because I want it to help other people, because I wish I had this song that I wrote when I was going through it and I didn't. And so even when I'm in the studio, like I feel like I have this greater purpose to be sharing the traumatic things that have happened to me to help other people, which I think helps me in a sense because I want it to be relatable to people. I want people to feel better when they listen to it. I never want someone to listen to my song and be like, oh, that I didn't relate to that. Like, I don't really get what she's saying. I want people to feel understood and feel validated. So I always have that just subconsciously going on inside of me, I think, when I write songs as well.
I appreciate that. When you listen back to this record now, as you mentioned, it was written over so long.
Yeah.
What do you hear yourself going through?
Oh, sometimes I listen to some of the earlier songs and I just start sobbing because I can't believe that I felt that way when I wrote it.
What do you mean?
Like, we have a song on the album called Never Been in Love. And at the time when I wrote it, it's the first song on the album. I was just with someone and I wrote it from the perspective of I'm with someone, but I'm realizing like this isn't love. So like, if I thought you were my first love, like you're really not. So I've actually never been in love, even though I thought I had. And now I'm like, I've been with my boyfriend for a year and a half, over a year and a half. And I'm like so in love with him and I know how to set boundaries. I know how to be in a healthy relationship. Like, we don't fight. I don't have any of the problems that I had when I was with this other person and the things that were going on in my life. And it's so sad to me that I was so heartbroken that I wrote a song about how just somebody didn't care about me and I didn't have any self-worth or any boundaries because I'm just not like that anymore.
You feel
So it's
bad for
really
that
sad.
person. You feel compassion for that person.
I have so much empathy for younger me. I feel so bad for her. She just had no idea what she was worth. And it's so sad to listen back to some of the songs and just like realize that I had truly felt that way in that moment.
Well, what's the name of the song again?
Never Been in Love.
Let's play it. I was going to ask you for a song to play at the interview, but let's play that at the end of the interview.
Yeah.
How about that? Lauren, I've learned so much talking to you today. Not only are you a great songwriter and a great singer, but I love just hearing about the way you think about music and think about this world. And I really, really appreciate the time. And congrats on the record.
No, thank you so much.